Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Andrew Kaneshiro. As Mike mentioned, Senior Director of Product at Nauto. Just want to thank everyone. Really appreciate the opportunity to share some of the new technologies we're working on around IVMS and real-time AI. So as we think about why real-time AI is so valuable, so critical for fleets that not only operate in the Permian, but as we think about commercial fleets more broadly, there's really three dimensions to this problem statement. One is just the magnitude of collisions we're seeing, not only in the US, but also globally. If we look at the National Highway Transportation Safety Association, nearly 50,000 fatal collisions last year. And one of the biggest contributing factors to these collisions is distracted driving. On average, we're seeing about 9 people killed as a result of distracted driving every day. And as we look a bit deeper into the data, distracted driving is a component of a collision nearly 94% of the time. To take that a step further as well, that same NHTSA study showed that out of 60 minutes of driving, a typical driver is distracted for 2 or 3 minutes. So this is really an epidemic of health issues, really with distracted driving being at the forefront. And not only is this a health and safety problem, but this is an economic problem. As we think about first and third party losses, these are incredibly expensive to the fleets. We heard from the Berkeley folks about third party losses and litigations. As we look at the cost of motor vehicle crashes in 2021, nearly $500 billion. So these are large magnitude economic problems as well. So as we kind of close the aperture, look more specifically at the Permian Basin here, we see the same issues. So as we look from 2021 to 2022, collisions and specifically fatalities are on the rise. We've seen nearly a 20% uptick. So the data and the trends are moving, unfortunately, in the wrong direction. And as we look at some of the causes, as we mentioned, distraction is an enormous problem. And we see this in the Permian as well. So nearly 1,000 distracted driving related crashes, 750. And fatalities also due to distraction are significant. So 11 fatalities in the last year. So I think we all understand the problem. We heard from Ryder, we heard from Berkeley that distracted driving, collisions, enormous problem. How do we address them? How do we solve this problem of collisions and distracted driving being a huge contributing factor? Technology can absolutely help. And as we think about IVMS, I think there's a fantastic foundation we can use as we think about conventional technologies, whether it's looking at vehicle dynamics, acceleration, braking, cornering. We heard from Ryder about the use of cameras, both inward and outward facing. But there's this new frontier of real-time predictive AI to where we can make a paradigm shift from instead of recording events, recording a collision, we can actually prevent them with cutting-edge technology. So this is a really, really interesting graph. Nauto's been in the market for several years now. We have over 3 billion AI processed miles. And as we look across that data set of 3 billion miles, we look at all of the collisions. And as we look at kind of this pie chart, which shows the contributing risk factors to all of the collisions across our data set, there's a really interesting set of trends and insights here. So as we look at the signals and behaviors that conventional IVMS or telematics detects, it accounts for about 12% of the risk factors of most collisions. So it's a decent chunk. And as we move to the next kind of tranche or bucket of technologies, which are commonly referred to as advanced driver assistance systems. So this is your lane keep assist, your forward collision warning that you see in a vehicle, kind of those features that are built into the vehicle that you can turn on and off. You get a pretty modest lift. So about 18% of risk factors are covered by those advanced driver assistance capabilities. And as we move to the far left of this pie chart, you see a whopping 70%. And this 70% is inattention. And this is what we saw in that NHTSA data. This is what we see in a whole bunch of academic research. The biggest factor in collisions is inattention. And as you think about inattention, it's not looking at the road, it's cell phone usage, and it's drowsiness. So really, really important to make sure that we all understand what is the root cause, what is driving a lot of these collisions, and it's inattention, and that's really, really critical to understand. Now, one other thing to add here, as we look at these three buckets of inattention, advanced driver assistance systems, which are really looking at the external scene rather than the driver behavior, and telematics, it's great to look at these individually, but what becomes very, very powerful is when you start to use AI to fuse all of these together in real time to holistically understand risk. And that's exactly what the next frontier of technologies is deploying systems that in real time aren't looking at just the external scene in isolation, the driver behavior in isolation, and the traditional IVMS signals, the telematics in isolation, but using AI to fuse all those signals in real time to understand what the vehicle's doing, what risks exist outside of the vehicle, and what that driver behavior or attention state is to understand how risky a situation truly is. We'll play this video here in a moment, but this is an actual example of that fusion AI capability where the AI is looking at the external scene, looking at the driver's state, and this is really a paradigm shift from a technology perspective. So this really shifts the technologies from a camera to record collisions to really leveraging in-vehicle AI to prevent collisions. So I'll play it here in a moment, but you can also see the escalation. So one of the previous presenters also talked about coaching and the need to have safety programs. One of the beauties of this next kind of stage of technology is AI can be the coach. So you'll see this driver gets 2 behavior nudges in the vehicle, and that is incredibly powerful from an operations perspective as well. You think about the human capital, the responsibility of those frontline managers. Coaching is just another thing to add to that laundry list. And with highly accurate AI, Nauto sees incredible behavior change just by the drivers in these vehicles getting real-time behavior nudges. So we'll go ahead and play this.
Distracted. Pull over to use phone. Collision warning.
So I'll kind of recap what you saw in that video. So the first 2 alerts are real-time AI coaching. So the AI is able to detect that the driver's eyes are not on the road, gets a friendly nudge to focus on driving. Unfortunately, in this example, the driver wasn't responsive. Then there's a second escalation representing as this situation becomes more risky that it's really important for the driver to focus on the road in front of them. But in the third alert, you can see that's where that real-time fusion comes into play. The AI understands that that driver is looking down at his phone. He doesn't see that vehicle ahead stop to make a left turn. And because we have full awareness of the external scene threat of the parked vehicle with the distracted state of the driver, we actually alert 3/4 of a second earlier than a conventional forward collision warning because we understand the distraction component. So if we could play that one more time just so everyone can see all the components coming together.
Distracted. Pull over to use phone. Collision warning.
So you can see really, really powerful, that real-time AI and how this shifts these in-vehicle technologies from being event recorders, being cameras, to really sophisticated systems that change outcomes. If this AI was not as sophisticated to look at the driver's state as well as the external threat, that would have been a collision. He wouldn't have gotten that alert soon enough to make that evasive maneuver, and he would have plowed into the vehicle in front of him. So we've heard about collisions. This technology is not about recording collisions, it's about preventing collisions, which is a monumental shift. Perfect. So we just looked at an example of the power of this next generation technology and how by looking at behaviors, vehicle dynamics, and the external scene holistically, we can avoid collisions. But as we think about technology deployment, we think about fleets, and we think about programs, driving behavior change is another really, really critical piece. We talked about statistically distracted driving being one of the most important factors to address. And there's another really powerful example of how this real-time AI drives behavior change. So this is not as critical of an event, but you'll see through these real-time alerts, drivers automatically change their behavior. And this again goes back to the notion of automated AI coaching as well. It doesn't require you to pull a driver into an office, have a manager, have a conversation. This tool, as you'll see here, drives behavior change.
Distracted.
So you'll see there, the driver got 3 escalations, low, medium, and high, because he continued looking at his phone. But the important thing here is that the driver pulled over. He got that feedback, he understood that his behavior was dangerous, and he took himself off the roadway, which is the safe and correct thing to do. And in terms of the impact of this type of technology to drive reduction in these really critical safety behaviors, the results speak for themselves. So whenever we deploy a Nauto technology into a fleet, we always baseline. We want to understand what the current behavior is in a fleet, and that's what you see in those first 3 bar graphs, where we deploy Nauto devices to understand what is the status quo for behaviors like distracted driving and tailgating. And that green bar you see is after we turn on those in-vehicle alerts, that real-time AI coaching. And the results are incredible and dramatic. We typically see across all fleets, all industries, an 80% reduction in distracted driving. It's absolutely enormous. And one other thing I want to call out, this is without the need of additional coaching. So when you start to deploy this technology into your fleets, it doesn't necessarily require an enormous programmatic investment into your safety program. By having that feedback in the drivers, you can see incredible results like this. One other thing I want to call out here, specifically around inattention and distracted driving, is not just the reduction in the prevalence of distracted driving, but a reduction in the severity. So if you see those stacked bar graphs, the gray, yellow, and orange represent low, medium, and high. So essentially 2.5 second, 4 second, and 5.5 second distractions. As you look at week 7, the reduction in those high severity distraction events is almost brought to 0. So going from one severe distraction every 2 hours to about 1 per week. And just to kind of put that in perspective, what's a 5.5 second distraction? That's 5.5 seconds your driver's going down the road blindfolded. At 60 miles an hour, that's 5 football fields. That's incredibly dangerous behavior. So to see that go from 1 every 2 hours to 1 a week is an incredible result. A couple things I want to add here. We actually have 2 of the largest oil and gas fleets in the world using Nauto, and we've actually seen better results than this. So this is an average Nauto fleet result. So that large oil and gas company, on top of conventional IVMS technology, saw a 99% reduction in distracted driving. So they went to almost 0 using Nauto technology. So not only does it work, but if you have a best-in-class organization that is serious about safety, you can virtually eliminate distracted driving. So incredibly powerful. And one other thing that is really, really valuable about this real-time AI technology is it really shifts the driver perspective as well. As we think about some of the driver and fleet manager perspectives on more conventional driver cameras and IVMS technologies, I think there's somewhat of a punitive perception. It's very much a stick tool versus a carrot. And one thing that we found specifically with our predictive collision alerts is drivers are incredibly thankful for them. This technology allows them to come home to their families at night safe. It is an incredibly powerful tool. They feel like they have a companion in the vehicle with them, keeping them safe. And you can see this in the driver reactions to the real-time alerts.
Drowsy, take a break.
Thank you.
Drowsy, take a break. Collision warning.
So you can see the recognition. I mean, these are behaviors where unknowing or kind of in these situations, people get distracted. They get that text message. They want to look at their phone. And knowing that there's a system that is monitoring their behavior, not only in the vehicle, but what's going on around them to alert them to critical safety situations is incredibly powerful. I think a couple things to add about this real-time AI technology is privacy is really, really important and in many regards more safeguarded with real-time AI solutions. What do I mean by that? Because all of the AI processing is done on the device, if you have a fleet that has privacy concerns, we don't have to upload video. And why is that? That's because the AI is running on the device in the vehicle. We don't have to backhaul it to the cloud to process behaviors. We do it all on the device. So if you have unionized fleets, if you have sensitivity to privacy, that's another huge benefit to this next generation real-time AI technology as well. So that's a little bit about Nauto and where we're going from a technology perspective. Thanks, everyone.
That was amazing. Amazing.